Yeah, you're supposed to fix it. This is
I'd like to
good.
hear more discussion.
All right, recording on. Okay. Welcome to our city council meeting for tonight, February 12th, 2020. We will begin this evening with a prayer by Pastor Rowe. He's here, or anyone from the Church of Christ, which I didn't see anyone. So we'll have it by Chief Adams, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Chief Phillips.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee as we assemble with council members and mayor and staff, and we give thanks, Father, for the opportunity we have to serve, to be here, to engage in civic dialogue, and to advance the resources of our community and the prosperity that we enjoy. We give thanks for this free country in which we live, and for this beautiful city, and for all those within it who contribute and make it what it is for us. We pray, Father, that we may be able to discuss those things on the agenda this evening, to be guided by thy Spirit, and be able to collaborate and discuss these things in a manner that would be fitting unto thee, that we may be able to be prosperous in all that we do. We ask a special blessing upon our council for all that their time and dedication, their service. We pray for our staff, for those who work tirelessly to make the city run and do what it does. We pray for our military servicemen and women who sacrifice on our behalf and provide our freedoms. Again, we are grateful for all that we have. We're grateful for our citizens and ask thee to bless and protect all of us within this beautiful land. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will now move on to our agenda order approval. If there's any items the council would like changed from the published agenda,
Motion to approve the agenda order as outlined.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now go to council business.
Mayor, I'd like to, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a quick item. I appreciate our mayor. Last night, someone sent me a picture of some crude graffiti on some city property. And anyway, I forwarded that on to the mayor and she was right on it. So I appreciate that and the willingness of our mayor and staff to address those issues so we don't have to wait, a week to start getting that taken care of. So
Was
thank
handled
you.
today.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, I'd like to just thank our city, I believe it's the Parks Department. Get a little confused who puts up and down our banners, but
Parks.
I love our new historic downtown banners, and thanking the Historic Preservation Commission and the staff for working through the new look of our historic downtown. And I think they look terrific. It's nice color downtown, and hopefully it'll begin a lot of new and exciting things in our downtown area. So I wanted to offer that congratulations. And then I wanted to take a moment of personal privilege, if I may. Tonight I am wearing a flamingo tie, and it's in honor of my dear friend Fred Adams, who passed away last week. And he gave me this tie. So tonight I wanted to celebrate him and all his greatness and all his color and all his panache. And I wear it with great pride and great honor tonight. So, and I wanted to thank the city for all of the outpouring of love and things they've provided to myself and the family during this difficult time. So thank you.
I just had one item. This Saturday, the Iron County Republican women are holding a Lincoln Day dinner, and they're having Jenny Taylor, who was the wife of, better get his title correct, Major Brent Taylor, that was killed in Afghanistan, is going to be the speaker there. If anyone would like to get tickets, you can go on Eventbrite and buy those, but it's Saturday night. It's from 6 to 8 at the Hunter Conference Center. And I just invite anybody that is able to go. It should be an amazing program listening to her. So,
Is this just for women or is this for 80?
no, anyone.
Okay.
for the
You
community.
can even be a member of Iron County Republican Women as a man.
You do have to pay more, but we take everyone.
Makeup person.
All right. Are there any other council? Okay. Then it would be my turn. This is going to be more interesting than I thought. To follow with what Councilman Phillips said with the passing of Fred, I have a proclamation that I will read. A number of Fred's family members are here, and I will like to give this to them when we are finished. The Cedar City, Utah proclamation, whereas Fred C. Adams was born in Cedar City, Utah on January 30th, 1931, to Paul and Louise Adams. Whereas Fred C. Adams joined the U.S. Army and was stationed at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. during the Korean War from 1952 to 1954. And whereas Fred C. Adams holds various bachelor and master's degrees from Brigham Young University in theater arts and Russian. Whereas Fred C. Adams was a professor at the College of Southern Utah, now Southern Utah University, for 38 years and was named Professor Emeritus upon his retirement from teaching. And whereas in 1961, Fred C. Adams and his wife Barbara created the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival, which brings millions of dollars annually to the Cedar City area. And whereas after 50 years serving as the executive producer of the Utah Shakespeare Festival, he then assumed the responsibilities as the center director to fundraise for the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Center for the Arts. And whereas Fred C. Adams has been the recent recipient of many prestigious awards, such as the SUU Presidential Medallion of Service in 2019, the Shakespeare Theater Association Lifetime Achievement Award in 2015, and the Governor's Award from the Utah Humanities Council in 2010, plus many others. And whereas Fred C. Adams took his final bow on February 6, 2020, and left an extraordinary legacy for Cedar City throughout his dreams and visions of the Utah Shakespeare Festival. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Miley L. Wilson Edwards, Mayor of Cedar City, Utah, do hereby declare February 14th, 2020 as Fred C. Adams Day in Cedar City. And I would like to, and for those who don't know, February 14th will be the day of Fred's funeral. And so we would like to keep him in our thoughts, and we would like to have a moment of silence right now in his honor. Thank you. And so I would like to give this to Dorcas and Addison.
Oh, but they got the ceiling.
Fred was truly a remarkable man that helped shape the vision and legacy of what Cedar City, our region, and our state, even internationally, what we have become because of him. And so we'd be remiss not to recognize him during this difficult time. And with that, we will move on to staff comments with our Employee of the Month.
Ryan Marshall, Public Works Director. I'm here to present the Employee of the Month, and I'm glad that Jeff would give him enough time off to come. They even had time to go home and change, so I appreciate Jeff for that. But our Employee of the Month is Eric Witzke. He's been with the city for about 6-7 months now. He came on with the Streets Department. He's been an invaluable employee and asset to us. He jumped right in. Jeff has been able to train him on several different jobs and tasks, and he's taken those on and been very positive and upbeat about it, and has really done a great job. I'll read the nomination that was made for him. Eric is always pleasant and is willing to take care of issues of solid waste cans, signs, and anything to do with the Streets Division of Public Works. He is pleasant in his interaction with the city residents. We know we can call on him to take care of the problems with missed trash pickup, repair of broken trash cans, delivery of new cans and services, and any other issues that the street department sees fit. I appreciate his willingness to get the extra mile in making sure issues are taken care of in a timely manner. I know Eric, when he came on board, one of our big things that we were trying to wrestle with is our retro reflectivity sign tracking. And Eric jumped in and took that on. He's going out there and tracking all the signs that the city has, GPSing it and putting it into our system where our insurance requires that we check the reflectivity of those signs twice a year. And so he's taken on that big responsibility. He's jumped in there. Something no one really wanted to take on, but he jumped in there and he's done it, and he's done a great job with that. So I just want to congratulate him and present him to you as the Employee of the Month.
Thank you, sir.
And as a quick side note, sorry, we do need to excuse Councilman Isom. He is sick this evening, and we appreciate him being sick, staying home, because whatever he has, we don't want. So, yes. So hopefully he gets better, and we do appreciate him not being here. So next we'll move on to our 500 West Sewer Line update.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. My name is Trevor McDonald with the Engineering Department. I was asked to give a brief summary of what we have done so far on the 4500 West sewer. So make that correction here. Sorry, 4500 West instead of 500 West.
I thought, where's that?
Yeah, I was a little confused as to.
Just a minor typo there. Over the past couple of years, we've been working on a sewer outfall line that has been planned and in the making for many years. So Cedar City, as you know, is growing. Before this line was in, we had a treatment facility that was closer to town. Originally, I think we had one by the Public Works building or on the side of the Public Works building, and then it moved out to Bulldog Road. And then further north and lower in elevation out to off of 2300 West and 7200 North. So just to give you a rough idea of where that is. Since that plant was put in, that allowed more areas in the city to be served on gravity sewer. So one of the outfall lines that we pursued is the 4500 West outfall line that allows the West Valley to have gravity sewer access. Over the last 15 years, we've been working on this line. So it's been a long project. We've had 15. Sorry, 15. We've had various funding sources to help with it. Up until 2 years ago, there was a gap. It was all but done. The gap was remaining 3 miles in the Cedar Meadows area up to 1600 North, which is the street by Equestrian Point, but along that 4500 West line, more or less. So budget was approved, and we pursued filling in that gap, the 3 miles there. And then while we were there, we thought it wise to bid out the next segment of an outfall line that ties into that 4500 West, and that meets it Highway 56 and comes into town to around the Aviation Way area. So we have now successfully completed both of those projects. I think the cost was roughly $3 million for about 4 miles of line, but the benefits are, in my opinion, far outweighing the cost. We have a gravity system in place that eliminated 2 lift stations. One was a major lift station for the city, and then it cut down on operations for a 3rd lift station. We estimate savings on just maintaining those lift stations should be in the order of about $85,000 a year. On top of maintenance and operation savings, we are lowering our overall system risk for the sewer system. When a lift station fails, there's a lot of mechanical parts there. So when it fails, sewer backs up and basements get flooded. And that's an insurance claim on us. And that's a risk that we want to eliminate. With the gravity system, we have far less insurance claims and far less sewer backups. So I'm pleased to announce that this project has been successful. We look forward to continuing with our master plan and finishing other sewer lines that can eliminate some more lift stations or alleviate their loads to help us get back down to a lower risk and smooth sailing for the sewer system. Do you have any questions?
So would you say, is it 100% complete, 90% complete?
I'd say it's 99.9%
Oh,
complete. There's just
okay.
a few punch list items that are minor,
Okay.
but the sewer line is connected and functioning, and it's been tested and
Oh,
accepted by us.
that's great. I know it's been a long time coming, so
It has been.
congratulations to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thanks,
Kit left, so tell him thanks.
Thanks, Trev.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other staff comments? Seeing none, we will move on to our business agenda with our public comment portion. If there's anyone that would like to address the city council? Yes. Will you just state your name so we have it for the record? And
My name is Derek DeGroot. My name is Brent Atwood. I'm a newer member of a board. I'm a newer board member of a local HOA, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here. We've had an issue arise that intertwines between our CC&Rs and some city issues. It's related to extended on-street parking, more particularly in areas where children tend to be around, and as a safety issue. So I'm here to kind of learn what I can do as a board member. But if I could ask Mr. Atwood to discuss some of the more detailed issues that he has concerns with.
I went to the board last week on their board meeting and brought up the issue of people parking on
The HOA board meeting?
Yes. Yeah,
Right
the
here.
HOA. Well, that was
Sorry.
the HOA board
Surround
meeting.
sound.
Yes, and around my block and around our subdivision, the Mesa Hills subdivision, there's a lot of parking on the street.
Where this is, where we're
Mesa Hills.
oh, Mesa Hills.
Anyway, there's a lot of public people parking on the public streets. Tractor trailers, people's little tiny utility trailers, their own personal cars. I've called the cops twice. They have went and had them remove these vehicles. There's one Ford truck on Shauna Lane. I told him, I says, I told the cops, I said, he is too close to the stop sign. And one day I was going around there and some kids walked out. I'd have killed one of them if I wasn't paying attention. So I called the cops and I said, would you please have him move that truck somewhere on his property? So he pulled it on the other side of the street. Now he's parked in front of 2 people's homes. We had a trailer was parked across from my house, and the guy strung a cord clear across the road and was living in it. This is where we're headed with this. I'm going to make a suggestion here. You can do with what you want, but I would think from here on out, I would not allow a home to be built in this town without having a 3-car garage. Everybody has 2 cars garage, but they stuff it clear full of junk that isn't worth what the car is sitting outside the building. But if you had 3 cars, you at least put your junk in one of them and park your other 2 cars in the 2-car garage and keep the cars off the main street, off the streets. I went down to White Wave Dairy, and all those trucks are parked on public parking. But Utah Power and Light, Questar, and everybody else makes accommodations for their trucks to be parked somewhere else. And why White Wave gets away with this, I don't know. But I can imagine a snowplow driver trying to get down through these streets with all these cars parked without doing a lot of damage. Your trash pickup, they're constantly going around the cars trying to pick up the trash. All this could be eliminated if we just stop this street parking. I'm not trying to be mean here, but I have 30 kids around my block that meet the bus right in front of my house. I'm retired. I watch them, and those kids are just lollygagging along around these cars. One of them's going to get killed, and then we'll all sit and boohoo and say, "Oh, we should have done something." Well, we can do something and do it right now. Right now, we get these cars off the road, and if the people don't have room, I had a fifth wheel. I couldn't park at my house. It wouldn't fit. So I went down and rented a little spot down here at Cedar Storage. That's what people have to do. That's what responsible people do. So get your junk off the road. I don't know what else I can say about this situation, but I went out to Enoch to help a guy put in a pig farm in his backyard. I do not want to see that happen in Cedar City. I mean, this is the direction we're going to start heading if we don't clean these streets up. The street going up to the temple, that Cody Drive, clear at the bottom of it. Go down our drive right now, and there's several utility trailers parked there. There's people's personal travel trailers. Their cars are parked on that road all the time. Is it public parking? I thought these were private individuals and their vehicles. So I don't know what you can do about it. I've never been to a council meeting in my life except in Wellington, Utah, and I left the town after that meeting. So I don't want to do that. But I would hope that you would consider these things and see what can be done. I know legally our HOAs can't do a thing about it. And I refused to pay my HOA this year. So I went to that meeting, and they fined me $12 for not paying it. And I said, this is not about money. This is about upholding our HOAs in our area. And I says, I'm not going to pay it if you're not going to enforce it. Now, city, I want you to do something about it. If there's a way we can enforce these, some way to stop this, then let's do it. If we can't, if there's no way you can stop these people from doing it, then so it be. But I would hope you would consider these things when you're talking about it. Thank you.
As a follow-up, I'd just like to confirm if there's a department or a person I might be able to further reach out to. We know that there's issues of cars that are transient daily, but if we have extended parking, is there like a code enforcement or, another department that we could try to continue this with?
So the state law, is it 72 hours, Darren? Yeah. So if a car's parked in the same spot for 72 hours, it's considered abandoned. And that's when we can engage code enforcement to put a notice on and get it moved or towed.
So reach out to code enforcement after 72 hours?
That's 72 hours. Now, that doesn't prohibit the guy from pulling up the road a little bit and
that was
not being abandoned anymore. So that's what we have on the books currently is abandoned vehicles can be towed. We do allow people to park on the streets. It's a public street. People can park on the street. You can't block a fire plug. You can't block a driveway. You're supposed to have certain distances from intersections and stop signs and such, but it's not illegal to park on the public street.
And again, that's why I'm here for learning. So,
And you said that now. We've got that cable people up there putting in the cable, and they put out signs that says you cannot park or you'll be towed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they'll tow you around
all
the
of a
block.
sudden the streets became clean as a whistle.
During their project, and we do the same thing when we do street maintenance. We post notices that say we're doing maintenance on that street. If you're parked on the street, we'll tow you around the block.
Then why can't you do it all the time?
Why
if somebody
should we?
parks there, tow the vehicle away. I don't get me wrong.
could prohibit
My
it.
fifth
We
wheel, I
chose
pull it up
not
and load it. Pull it up there one night. We get it loaded. The next day we were gone. I don't mind an overnight deal. That's no big deal. But what I'm saying, it's a ongoing situation night after night, day after day. I can prove it. I've got pictures. So if we're not, I know the policemen don't have time to go around and mark every car that's parked illegally. I understand that. But there has got to be some kind of a clean, we're always talking about cleaning the town up and you put out dumpsters during the spring to clean up. But your biggest problem is these cars parked all over, and the safety issue alone.
Well, sir, safety issue right here. Safety is one issue. I would agree with you. But as Mr. Bittman pointed out, it is not illegal to park on our public streets.
Why isn't it illegal?
Why should it be?
It should be illegal.
Why should it be, sir?
Because it is not your property. Buy a big enough home to put your cars on. That's what I'm saying.
It is.
Quit buying a home that's too small for you to begin
Sir,
with.
Mr. Rumble,
Sir,
speak to
it's
this.
public property.
Yeah.
It is their property.
That's right, public. I'm
all-
paying the taxes and I don't want them there.
Well, they're
It's
paying
not
the
paying
private
taxes as
property.
well.
They're paying the taxes and they would like to be there. So who's right?
It's not private property. It's your private vehicle. You're paying the tax on that private property, and you don't have a right to park on private property, public property.
It's public property. And as of city law,
Okay,
it's
well,
allowed to park.
you're
on
you're
public
you're
property.
headed down the bad road here. That's what I'm telling you, because it will become a garbage dump because people can do what they want. Aren't we? And especially at Mesa Hills, I went up there and bought a home for that exact reason because I had CC&Rs. But if it's going to be demolished, once again, I'm going to move again. I just think that people ought to consider what a mess this makes. And your snowplows has already damaged the car right there in front of Barrick's house, demolished it. You weren't responsible for the car because they weren't supposed to be there. Well, if they're not supposed to be there, why did you let them park there? You didn't pay for the damage to that car when the snow truck hit it, did you?
When was that?
A couple of years ago.
It wasn't our snowplow that hit it.
What was it?
I have no idea, but our
It was a snow. They said it was a snowplow.
The snow,
there's lots
the
of
damage
snowplows.
to the vehicle was at a height that our snowplow blades don't even raise to. We went through that whole claim with that neighborhood, and the damage to the vehicle was up on the post by the windshield, and our snowplow blades don't raise that high. So it
Well,
was
they
not our
told
plow
me,
that
says
hit
even if
us.
it was a snowplow, you're not supposed to be here anyway, so they wouldn't have to pay for it anyway.
I can't disagree that somebody might have told you something, but that was not our snowplow.
Well, and regardless,
And
a
if
snowplow
somebody
trying to
told you
go
that
around those
somebody
streets.
shouldn't have been there. They were wrong. It's a public street. You can park on the public street.
All right, I get it. If nobody wants to take this and run with it, I don't know what to tell you.
Sir, would you eliminate all parking on all public streets?
Absolutely.
So there'd be nothing around the university, nothing on Main Street?
Not in residential areas. Down here on the main street, I understand that. I get it.
So do we then narrow all the roads? Because we don't need that parking then.
Why would you want to narrow the roads?
Well, then why have them that wide if no one's parking on them? I mean, I'm trying to
So you tell
understand.
me we're pouring these roads this wide to accommodate people to park their cars on?
And drive on both.
And ride
Both.
bikes and walk and ride scooters and do a whole bunch of stuff.
They do both. They do all those things.
Ride scooters, but it's a moving vehicle. It's not parked there so that snowplows, trash trucks, and kids aren't going to get hit.
Now, HOAs are free in their covenants to prohibit street parking on their own streets if they're paying for the maintenance as well.
But they won't do anything about it. That's the problem. I went to Mesa Hills. They
Mhm.
said we have no teeth in our laws or in our covenants.
Right.
I'm saying, well, why am I paying why am I paying for this?
So then the argument is why move to those HOAs that don't have teeth?
Exactamundo. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, because there are HOAs in this town that prohibit street parking for more than a certain period of time, and if you have teenagers, it's kind of tough luck. You have to move because you can't have your cars there. And
My son lives up there near the golf course.
Right.
They own their streets and they will not allow you. They'll
Right.
tow your vehicle off the
Yep.
road.
and that's because that's their private contract.
Yeah, it's exactly
And
right.
and apparently your HOA doesn't have that same contract, but the city, it is not the city's role to step in and fill the failures of private contracts.
Okay, well,
And for your education, yes, you could reach out to the police department. That's code enforcement falls under police. And our chief is even back there if you would like to get contact info, and they can help educate you on some of that.
Perfect. I thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other public comments? Yes.
My name is Charlize McConnell Robertson, and first off, I would like to pay condolences from my family to Mr. Phillips and to the Adams family. If it hadn't been for Fred Adams, I wouldn't have some of the skills that I have, and I wouldn't have had the theater career that I've had. So thank you. And thank you to Mr. Phillips for making sure I got hired all those years ago. For the education of the gentleman who just spoke, and I think he just left, it's my understanding historically that the reason our streets are actually so wide, particularly in downtown, historic downtown, is so that horses and carriages could actually turn around back when we had such things. And as far as things on streets are concerned, I'm trying to remember the name of the street that runs over by Costa Vida and down toward Home Depot in Providence Center.
Royal Hunt. Or it's Providence Center Drive.
I think it's
You're
I
on
think it's
that side
Providence
of it,
Center
yeah.
Drive, yes.
Yeah.
And I noticed the other day when I was trying to run some errands and drop things off at DI and go to Home Depot, there were several semi trucks that were parked, and you cannot see to make a right or a left-hand turn to get out of there. And that I think is something that we might need to try to address. Also on First Street at the bottom of the wash, my husband and I live back in that neighborhood, we have a nice pothole that is forming. So I don't know if that can be taken care of either.
Did
And
you get that,
also,
Ryan?
and also where there is construction of some twin homes, when they have gone to do the water, I believe it is, they are not filling in properly. And so we are getting these nice divots, which will eventually be potholes on First Street as well.
So our public works director's in the back of the room making notes as you
Perfect.
call
Thank
out
you.
the potholes.
Okay, thank you. So here's my main statement. As many of you know, I actually spoke last week. So Madam Mayor and council members, I read you a statement for myself and my family last week. So you know our stance on the zone change for the quote garden house lot on 100 West. Mr. Bryan, who wants to purchase the property and develop it, is not a resident of Cedar City, but rather Heber in Utah County. His only interest in our little gem of a city is purely for profit, and this is alarming and yet another example of developers, local or otherwise, lining their pockets with no care for the structure of our community or the neighborhoods therein. After speaking with both Mr. Daly, who currently owns the property, and Mr. Bryan, it appears the main reason for the sale of this property to Mr. Bryan is because Mr. Daly had his much more desirable project denied by the city because the current zoning demands property owner occupancy, which was not an option for Mr. Daly. His proposed project was for a boutique coffee shop at the street front and a possible fourplex behind it. This is a much more desirable option than the 36-room dorm-style building that Mr. Bryan has planned. If the city would consider an amendment to the current zoning to allow this project without owner occupancy, and if it could move forward that way, it is much preferred. We again propose that this zone change and all other zone changes currently in question not be decided upon until such time as the Cedar City Master Plan, which is soon to be revised, is indeed revised and put in place. And I would like to humbly ask to be considered to occupy one of the seats on this Master Plan Revision Committee. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Can I get a copy? Oh, you were. Yeah, we'll just go straight to. They very much appreciate when you'll give them a statement like that. So,
Thank you.
all right. Any other public comments? No. Okay, then we will move on to our public agenda with the consent agenda first. Approval of minutes dated January 22nd, 29th, 2020. Approval of bills dated February 7th, 2020. Approval final plat for the Paradise Townhomes. Approve final plat for Blackstone Phase 3 PUD and approve AIP 036 Airport Grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the action agenda. Item number 6, consider an ordinance changing the zone from central commercial to mixed use for property located at 164 South 100 West.
Bob Platt here representing this zone change request from Mr. Bryan, which was discussed last week. As you know, it is a request from central commercial, which it is presently zoned, to mixed use, which it is in conformance with the master plan. I spoke to Mr. Bryan. I just want to say two things, and that's it. First, if the zone change, if it's approved, the parking is 1.3 per bedroom. So it's not, I'm just pointing that out. It's 1.3 per bedroom if the zone change is approved. If it stays the way it is with central commercial, well, first of all, if the zone change is approved, he's proposing 36 units that would be about 27 to 29 feet high. If the zone change is not approved and it stays central commercial, he's allowed to do a central commercial project that can be up to 50 feet high. That's just per the ordinance. I'm just pointing that out.
Bob, how many units are, I mean, when you say 36 units, how many bedrooms?
36 bedrooms.
That's 36.
36 bedrooms,
36
so it's like
bedrooms.
47 parking places.
Yeah, is there, I just wonder if there's room for that.
There's room for it.
Is there on that
There's
lot?
room for it on that lot. We've worked the site plan up.
I guess okay.
And whatever's, I understand this situation. I've lived here all my life. I know how the garden house is. It was a wonderful establishment, and I had 2 wedding dinners there for my kids. But frankly, now it's urban blight. Enough said there. The point is, it would have to meet all the requirements at 1.3 per bedroom. And there is something that would work there.
Yeah,
So you're not saying 36 units, you're saying 36 bedrooms.
I'm saying 36 bedrooms.
So the
Yes, I'm
apartment
saying
unit count
36
might be
bedrooms at
different.
1.3 per bedroom is about 47 parking spaces.
Okay.
No, I was going to say, because when
No,
you
it's
said
not.
36 units,
unit
I calculated 93 parking
No, it's
spaces, and I know there's not room
36
for that.
bedrooms.
Thank you.
Clear that up.
That's why I asked you that.
Are there other comments, questions?
I have some, I have a kind of a brief comment. I'm a big fan of property rights. I think people should be able to do what they want with their property. I especially am an advocate for mixed use developments. I think we need more mixed use in different areas around town especially where we have a shortage. That being said, the particular zoning difference here, mixed use is our zoning vernacular for a hybrid zone where you can pretty much do anything that falls under the central commercial zone or the R3 zone. And in looking at the adjoining properties and the uses surrounding, I'm inclined to decline this request because it does not fall within the established uses of the area.
I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but I've read all the minutes and I've talked to several people. I've talked to landowners. I've done a lot of additional homework on it. And I think that our planning commission really did due diligence on this. They listened a lot. They tried to weigh in all of the factors. And I believe that we should follow our recommendation of our planning council, and I'm inclined to deny the request as well.
Are either of these motions?
I just don't know if anything else to
Does anyone
say.
else have anything to say?
Probably ditto on most of what you have said. Our planning commission did their due diligence looking at it. I do have concerns that it's in harmony with what's in the area. Knowing full well that Mr. Bryan, I actually visited with Mr. Bryan too, that if he does a commercial venture, it could be something that the people in the neighborhoods like even less than an apartment building. He's trying to design the apartments to fit some of the decor and whatnot in the neighborhood. But I tend to think it doesn't fit with the use, but he's free to do what he wants. It's zoned central commercial. So you have any comments, Ron?
I just, that area in that block, I mean, is predominantly rentals anyway. With the exception of there's some bed and breakfasts, which are rentals, Airbnbs, the backup, several of them. So I think to say that it's not a rental area is totally whacked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it is. That's what's over there. Yes, there's a lot of older homes, but they're renting them all out to college students or otherwise. And I also, when we get into these discussions, it kind of bothers me a little when it's brought up to the point that this developer is building this for college students. Is he? I mean, you can't discriminate to college students. He could be renting to, anybody, not just college students. So I kind of look at them that way, that they're providing rental properties. Rental business is big right now. People are not buying homes like they used to, can't afford them. So they're renting properties. That's why all these developers are building all of these rental properties, and it seems like they're going crazy with them. But they seem to be selling them to other developers who are renting them, or the developer that built them is keeping 10 units and renting those out. And I was talking to one the other day. He says, mine are all filled up now and I haven't even finished the project. So there is a demand still for rentals in our community, because I just don't think they're, not everybody can afford to buy a house in this market, even though rates are good. But the market prices have gone up, on properties. So it does make it tough for somebody to, affordability. As far as that area, I remember a little history when Jeff Gason had the garden house, and he came to me one day and we were talking about his business. I used to eat there a lot too. And I said, how's it working out for you? He said, it's a terrible location. He said, it's off the main drag. I have the hardest time from people out of town finding me, even all the advertising I do. And I said, so what are you thinking? And he says, I'm going to be belly up on it. That's all there is to it. And he did. The bank took it back, and he got out of the business. So as even a restaurant at that location is not the best location to draw traffic into it. And he proved that. So, when you're saying, well, I wish somebody would have bought it and kept it as a restaurant, some have looked at it that way, but they haven't been able to make the numbers work. And I get that. So my idea is that I don't really have anything against it. The master plan calls for, mixed use, which gives the developer a little flexibility. And I agree that if they keep it the way it is, he can go 50 feet high with the project. If I was living next door, I think 2-story would be a lot better than a 5-story, or what it is to the 47 feet. Yeah. To the top plate. So anyway, that's my take. That's about all I got to say on it.
Well, I want to remind everybody too that this is also in our historic district. It borders our historic district from 100 to 300. And this would be the first parcel in there that we would take out of that current general commercial and move into mixed use. So,
I'll just add too, the neighborhood, if I were to be considering the so-called public clamor only, I would be voting for the change, because there is that flexibility to keep it low in that R3 designation. However, along those lines, I would admonish those living in the historic district to find a way to find some kind of private agreement, covenants, something that you all can agree on, because there will be projects in the future that where the city council is not the place to really protect neighborhoods from change. It's we have to look at a lot of different factors, and in this case, I feel that the balance weighs toward denying the change, but in the future it may not. And if neighbors are concerned, I would urge them to seek some kind of covenant or private agreement, so that we as a council can also have direction and find ways to support that.
Okay. So can I get a motion?
Motion to deny.
I will second that motion.
All right. We'll do a roll call starting with Councilwoman Hartley.
Had to start with you, Terry.
Yeah. Aye.
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 Nay.
All right. Motion passes to deny that ordinance change. Item number 7, consider an ordinance change, changing the zoning from dwelling multiple unit to student housing district for property located at 170 North, 400 West.
Bob Platt again. I mean, you know where this property is, 170 North, 400 West. There's a nice unit in front, which is to remain. The plan is to put some housing in the back of the property. And you know where this is, I think. It was discussed last week. So it's in SHD, which is in conformance with the master plan. The zone changes is from R3 to SHD. Any questions?
Any questions? Move to approve.
Second.
All right. We'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
All right. So this one is 3-1 to approve.
Correct.
Item number 8, consider a request to waive impact fees for an 8-unit affordable housing development. Is there anyone here to speak on this? I don't think so.
Motion to deny the request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 9, consider entering into an agreement with the utility service partners.
So we had them email us the kind of form contract they use over the weekend, or well, maybe Monday, Tuesday-ish. Tyler checked it out. The only thing that Tyler's mentioned to me was the exclusive use of our name. We might want to just go back to them and say, yeah, we want to partner, but we don't want that. Other than that, it's a 3-year deal with them. It's no cost to us. It's only cost to the consumer if they choose to opt in, and they can opt out. I think it was 30 days notice they could opt out.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yeah, Tom asked, or yeah, get up there and mention it there. Want to
Good evening, Tom Jett. Just a quick couple questions. So your suggestion is that they not use our name, or is it not to exclusively use our name?
I don't care if we're on the mailer and it says, general reminder, folks, the sewer line is yours after it leaves our main line, and the water infrastructure is yours after it leaves our meter. Those are good things. Those are good reminders for our folks. It's just the exclusivity.
And I would agree with half of that. I don't know this company. I think it's a great idea. In fact, I'm probably going to sign up for it personally because I have a water line that's about to break. No, I'm just kidding.
Strike that from the record.
No, I think it's a great service. Yeah, that's okay.
That's a pre-existing condition.
Okay, keep going.
It's a pre-existing condition. So, but I don't think the city should put this name out there. And the reason I don't think the city should put this name out there, we are quasi endorsing a product that I think has the potential of coming back to bite them if they get goosed. And I'm not suggesting they will by any organization that we put their name out for. I think as cynical as the public is, and rightfully so, and not necessarily because of Cedar City's behavior, but just from life in general, it may come back to bite us. And I think that's my opposition to it. And I'm not quite sure what 3-year contract are we entering into. Are we with them?
Just to use our name in the marketing.
Oh, okay. So that's just my personal opinion. But overall, I think the service is a legitimate opportunity for many people out there to minimize coming up with a bunch of money all at once that maybe they can't do it. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Tom's right. If these guys are screwballs and we end up on an episode of American Greed where they're embezzling money, we're going to look really bad.
Yeah, we just had a planning retreat and got to discuss a lot of long-term issues with the city, and in that was looking at our strategic plan, where we are encouraged to seek out these public-private partnerships. However, this is not a partnership. This is really a product endorsement. And I'm hesitant personally to endorse a product where we're not actively working with the parties, where really I feel like there's not as much accountability and involvement with the city as there should be with a partnership. On that, I guess to that end, I'm inclined to, I guess, deny the request or whatever you would, however we decide to phrase it, but to not partner with them or in any way. But I do think it's a good reminder to maybe in the mayor's newsletter to remind people that this is something that may or may not be covered on their homeowners policy, and it's not the city's responsibility, and we would really encourage people to seek out options for their own coverage.
One little story before y'all make up your mind. I got, we get the phone calls from the folks that need extensions on their water bills. And one of them we got last month was from a mom, a wife, who had a problem with their utility lateral, and they had to pay for the whole thing. And they're behind on their bills because they had to divert their money over to fixing the lateral. It's our older housing stock that gets hit with these. It's not our newer housing stock typically. Yeah, there's some risk involved. We can choose to opt in to where we're more of a partner and we make the 50-cent royalty off of every policy written, or we could choose to not do that, or we can choose to not offer the service.
So we do have several options then in the proposal that we could look at.
Yeah.
And didn't he say that we review the letters before they go out to our residents? So
I think part of the reason they want the name is just because if you get so much mail and there's so many scams and frauds going on anymore that when you get it, you don't know what is actually a legitimate company versus what is somebody trying, especially elderly, who's trying to scam them. And so if it has the city, they're more likely to realize that it's hopefully a legitimate company and not just somebody trying to take advantage and scam.
Go ahead. As I mentioned last week, some people had been calling me in my area, had the Rocky Mountain Power version. Guess what I got in the mail today? The Dominion Energy version of the same thing. So
if you notice on that, it's a private contractor doing it, but it's Dominion Energy's name on the letter.
Correct. Similar to what they're asking the city to do. And that's all Rocky Mountain basically does. It's just, you got to look at it from a marketing standpoint. You partner up with the utilities, you got everybody's name, and they can go marketing like crazy. So I think that's probably part of it. And looking at the water, of course, we do the water as a utility. So I think that's why they're looking at us. But I did want to ask Tyler, do you see any, problems with this? As Tyler mentioned, it's basically an endorsement. Do you see any trouble with anybody coming back and saying, well, the city endorsed this?
No, that's not going to stop people from trying to blame us for something we're not responsible for. My only stall on this was the city usually doesn't enter non-exclusivity agreements. We just routinely haven't done that. With our cell phone company that came in, they wanted us to do the same thing. We told them no. They agreed to take that term out. So that's my pause, is just historically what we've done.
And we get asked all the time, utility providers that want to run in our right-of-ways, they always come in and say, hey, we want to be exclusive and have an exclusive franchise agreement. We tell them, no, we don't do that.
Can you give us any history on this from any other communities in this state that have done this and what kind of track record they've had?
Yeah, so I talked to the guys at Orem. They've done this program for a couple of years now. They've had good results. They've had claims paid from this company. Again, it's their older housing stock that takes advantage of it. Yeah. All the newer housing stock, they don't really see a need for this. But the Orem city manager that I talked to said it's been a positive thing in their area for those folks in the older parts of town.
Well, I'd make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, can I ask one thing? Before we do get to the motion, sorry, I'm cutting you off really quick.
Nope, that's okay.
We need to know if in the agreement you would want us to look at the 50-cent royalty or not. That part, that needs to kind of be in, so Tyler knows what he would need to work on them with an agreement.
We didn't talk much about that. Does the city want to get involved in that, or should we just let them do their thing? I don't
No.
It's optional. They don't care one way or another. Yes, if we got involved in it, we could structure a good program and bring it back to you for your approval so we could find a good use for the money. Just me personally, the 50-cent royalty on some insurance premiums that are going to be paid by folks is not going to be that big of a pot of money. If it's me, I would decline it and just not have the ratepayers pay the extra money.
But we need that part.
Would they like to build a soccer field instead?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much soccer
Yeah.
field out of that, man.
Just check.
Did you count that? Is it anywhere near 14 million? 50 cents?
Now we just need
That's a lot of 50 cents.
13,995,000.
Okay,
No.
sorry I cut you off with
No,
that.
that's okay. I would make a motion that we approve it without the 50-cent subsidy, but we need to do it to strike the exclusivity clause out of that. If someone else comes along and wants to do it, I think we should allow them to bid on it also.
And contingent that we have the ability to review the letter, I would only add that to the motion maybe. And if that's the case, I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you?
I was an A. Sorry if you
Oh,
didn't catch
I didn't
that.
get that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hit a frog in his throat.
You got to speak louder. All right, item number 10, consider bids for the golf course pond liner project.
Jonathan Stathis. This was presented last week. There were some issues with the budget. There was some information set out by Jason and Paul Bittman discussing the possible adjustments to the budget to cover the cost of the project. Maybe Jason could speak a little bit more to that if there's any additional information.
I didn't prepare anything. I will be doing a budget revision in the next couple of weeks, so I could include this, what we estimate to be about 100,000 above our budget. Include a revision funded within the golf course fund.
There
That made
is
sense.
money in the golf course fund.
There's money in there, roughly probably 300,000 is about what their fund balance carried over from fiscal 19.
So we would be using roughly, give or take, half of that maybe, or a little less than half
Maybe.
of that, a third of it.
Hopefully a third, but yeah.
What happens if we don't approve this? What happens to the project? Because
Without a
we're
liner?
short. Pardon?
Without a liner in the pond?
It stops.
Well, I didn't think so, but I'm trying to
Well,
make sure
we
I
could-
fully understand.
Skate park, something else.
You would
but-
have a big hole and no water.
Got it.
That kind
And
of
it's a big
hamstrings
hole.
the irrigation aspect.
And this includes the reseeding and everything around it to make it complete and done.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Tyler says we should fill it with sand and make it a big sand trap.
Sandbox would be great. Yeah.
Would be a very big one.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
Well, just do we have a recommendation on what the bid would be then and who we're recommending?
Oh, yeah, it was
Yeah.
John Norton?
Mel Clark.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mel Clark.
Mel Clark.
It was like 200,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Right. It was the low bid.
So we'd need to approve the bid.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming tonight, Steve. All right. Item number 11, consider an ordinance rising drafting a bedroom for parking calculations. Defining a bedroom for parking calculations.
So I had a quick conversation before the meeting with Brent Drew. He's suggesting we add just a couple additional words, like possibly a window, to the definition, making it so there are maybe a very few rare cases where a legitimate study is put in high density housing. And the staff's intent is not to create any additional parking for a legitimate study. So what I would ask, unless the council wants to vote differently, that's fine, but just table this for a couple weeks. So I'll bring it before the next action meeting. That'll give us a chance to talk, and if we can agree to some amended language, I'll bring that before the city council.
And I'll add, I texted Scott, Councilman Phillips earlier today, said this issue was giving me heartburn. So I am more than happy to table it.
I told him not to have heartburn. That was my response.
Not worth it.
All right. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we table this issue until further time and we have more complete information on the subject.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good response, by the way, Scott.
Yeah, it's always good advice.
All right. Item number 12, consider a parade route proposal.
Good evening, council. Chief Adams with the police department. Chief Phillips, as I got up here, said maybe we could just make the parade route one block. We would love that.
No way. You just wait till we have our big 4th of July parade.
So as we talked about last week, I think there's some positive benefits in moving this for a variety of reasons. I've been in contact with Chief Nilsson at SUU and Mindy Benson. She still needs to sit down with Tiger Funk and Chief Nilsson just to make sure they don't commit. She didn't see an issue with allowing or the university allowing for staging in that parking lot. If for some reason the university is a hard no, and I don't think that's going to be the case, as we close off 300 West from College Ave to Harding, arguably we could stage on 300 West in that period of time without any problem as we move people on, and then we just pull up our barricades. But I think this will be fine with the university. She gave me kind of a tentative yes, but wanted to make sure that she got all the everybody on board and collaborated.
Would that traffic be diverted to 800? I mean, if I'm heading north or south on 300, would they be diverted probably over to 800 or something?
So we would probably do a hard closure at College Ave right there, Shakespeare Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then a sign at 200 South saying road closed. So you could just zip right through 200 South, right over to 800 West and down, or 1100 West would be the other route. And so that's our proposal. I do this, and I don't know if this is something that we need to put in resolution or if it's just a recommendation, because I know there will be citizens that may come and say it's been this way forever.
Yeah.
And they may come to you when I say this is the new route. So I just want to make sure we have something in place that kind of says this is the way it's going to be. The only exception, as we talked, may be the sheep parade. If you recall, I spoke to Mr. Nelson, Paul Nelson, who told me that he said that this may not go on forever. We're getting out of the sheep business in the next couple of years, and I don't know where they'll find their sheep for the future, which I think is really the whole crux of that parade. That's what makes that parade.
Yeah.
But there's no way, obviously, they can route those down 300 West to Center Street, make a hard right, and come to Main and make a right again. They'll scatter everywhere. So we can look at maybe what that looks like.
Do you believe the additional space that you would be providing on on Center Street from 300 to Main, would that be able to accommodate the crowds that we currently have from about 200 down to Center on both sides of the streets? I noticed last year for the 4th of July parade, it was packed. It was packed.
Sure.
And I was thrilled by it. I just want to make sure that we're allowing the citizens the opportunity to participate in the parades, whatever the parades are.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to say. I think it will. If you look at anything historically past the park all the way to 400 North, is not as full.
Mm-hmm.
People like that center area.
Yeah, especially after Main Street Park, it kind of filters out a little bit.
So I think we have that, and we could, if we look at a parade and we say it's kind of crammed, we can tell people, hey, 400 North from Main over to 100 is completely open, because the parade, as it wraps around, historically does not conclude until it makes that turn in front of the library, and they kind of fizzle out from there.
Have we had any conversations with any of the parade organizers besides the sheep parade people to see what kind of response they might have to this?
No.
Is this mostly coming from the desire to have people travel to and from and up S14 and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so. There's been some different thoughts over time with what people want to do. When we made that change a few years ago to block off 400 down to 200 on Main Street, stage on Main Street, to alleviate the bottleneck that often occurs on 400 South and 100 by the LDS Stake Center. Not to mention the detour, but then people just flood into those neighborhoods, and residents can't seem to get where they want to go. But even with that, we had the I think it was the Cavalcade Parade. It may have been one of the other ones that Joyce Messer was in charge of. Was that the Cavalcade?
That's yeah.
So she was a little bit more passionate and would come in and say, well, we're going to stage on 100. And when there was some leeway there, we said, well, this is ideally what we want, but we know that those floats are bigger and so you need a little bit extra room. We just feel like this would open that up and give us a larger space in that parking lot at SUU to put all those in. Like I said, it does cut the route down by about 0.2 of a mile, but there's a lot of open space all the way down Main Street, all the way to 400 North historically. 4th of July may be the exception. But as you saw from about Center Street to 200 North and a little bit beyond, it's condensed. But south of that and north of that, that tends to lighten up a bit.
Do you think this is something that we could maybe offer as a recommendation or a resolution, and then we review it and we say, we've tried this for a year, or I don't know the time frame, and said, it didn't really work, or it worked great.
Right.
And
I'm happy to go to those organizers and say, this is what we're thinking. I just wanted to get this in front of you as an idea before those start to come up. But I'm happy to go to those organizers and say, this is what we're thinking, and this is why.
Yeah.
Do you have any major heartburn? I think it'll alleviate a lot of that, to have larger intersections at 300 West Center, the larger parking lot, to just get them out and moving and really free up for the residents and tourists that are often frustrated.
One concern I had, if you use that parking lot for staging, where are people going to park out there that are lining up Center Street and whatnot?
So are you talking about the parade participants?
No, well, participants and spectators. I worry a little bit that if we take that parking lot, there's not parking out in those neighborhoods to accommodate that.
So if we have, I think that parking lot is large enough that if we just took the one section for the staging, that entire parking lot would still be open for those that are coming to participate, to watch the parade. And then is that your question? Is that your concern? I want to make sure I'm understanding that.
Yeah, it is, but I don't know how you'd stage it in part of that parking lot. I mean, when I watch some of those big parades get staged on Main Street, they take the full block, all lanes.
Yeah.
So
Possibly we could have part of the parking lot for staging and part of the parking lot for parking.
Yeah.
I've driven on that parking lot multiple times, and one issue I'm foreseeing there is that the dips are really severe. It might be difficult with floats, and we may want to look into we'd have to work with SU, but maybe staging a little farther back on University Boulevard or something.
Yeah, so one thought, and I had the same concern, is that entrance right there where the two lanes converge, is that we would block off to there, because we would want to go back to 600 West anyway, and so road closed, is they could come out there and start to line up about a half a block back to the west.
Well, if you're closing 3rd West from Shakespeare Lane, you theoretically could close it all the way down to 200 South.
Right.
You could stage right on 300 West.
And that's an option too, is just to take that whole block.
Take that whole block and take every lane of 300
Plan
West.
B if the parking lot was not an option. So we have a couple of ways to work that.
The only thing you'd affect is anybody on Shakespeare Lane, but they can certainly turn and go up.
Sure.
200.
Yeah.
So there being many options within this mode of action, perhaps we move to approve the route of the parade itself, pending other details as they come available.
Let me ask one more question. Scott's here now because he wasn't here last week. He probably could answer my concern. I asked about, the parade times in July.
Oh, yeah.
For the 4th and 24th, because I know they hold, what do I want to say?
The matinee?
Matinees.
Well, yeah, the matinees.
The green
but
show or the lectures?
Yeah, the lectures. Aren't they held in the SUMA, some of them? And
Well, no, most of them are held outdoors.
where are those held?
But they're usually done by noon. They're 9, 10, and 11 o'clock.
See, and that's my concern on the 4th and
Yeah,
4th
the
and
parades
24th would be in the
start
middle
at
of the parade.
9 and 10. And so that was a question that we
That's what I
didn't
asked.
have
and
answered. And
yeah, I was waiting for you to get back because I know.
do they
you
hold
would know.
those on those holidays? Historically,
Yeah,
they
do.
just
Oh
don't.
yeah. People are traveling and visitors are here, but it's a nice sound system, and maybe we have a battle of the noise or something. I don't know.
So we're taking up all their parking though, right? Because don't they park in the
I don't
parking lot
think there
or
would be that
walk
many
over
people.
there?
There's
It's not this.
there's
I don't
generally
know.
about
You would know.
100
that attend those
people that
lectures.
attend those, maybe 125. So it's not hundreds.
Sure.
But there's between 100 and 125 people. But
Hmm.
I don't think parking would be, a lot of them will park on Shakespeare Lane because they're going to get there relatively early. I don't think that should stop at the process.
Okay.
Okay.
What I'd worry more about is the matinees, but there's usually nothing at 1:30 or
Right.
2
We knew
o'clock.
that.
Should be done
that
by
most of the
then.
parades, and we would even want to recommend that we have a uniform start time with our volunteers.
Mhm.
That was one thing Roland had suggested, is we have a start time that applies to everyone. And usually that's 9 or 10, but there's that one anomaly with the November parade where they like
Well,
to start at 2 o'clock. So, but that's November. And I think Shakespeare's over by then, right?
Yeah.
yeah, the type
Yeah,
of stuff.
Yeah, I
And
still
we
find it
can work
strange that
with-
we have our Christmas parade in November, but that's another whole story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we get
Yeah.
a motion?
Motion to approve the parade route as outlined.
With the understanding that we will revisit it
Yeah, I'll
at a
make
later
sure
date.
that SU is completely on board. And like I said, I'm happy to reach out, and I will, to those organizers. I know that the 24th of July parade at some point, Tyler left, may be coming to an end. I know the church is not going to organize those after this year. So that may
Could
be.
you put a little tickler in your phone that maybe next year at this time we just come back and we do a
Sure.
update on this to
Evaluation, yeah.
see
Yeah, I'd
how
be
it
happy
went
to.
for this year?
Mhm.
Bet.
Thank you.
You're
I will
welcome.
second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And with that, can I get a motion to exit this meeting and go into our closed session?
Craig's not
Yes. Firsted.
here. You make that
Do I
motion?
have to say it? Okay. So motion to close this meeting and moved into closed negotiations.
The session. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We'll start our roll call starting with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Mom, I like your new glasses. Oh, thank you. Very, Cary Grant-like.